Welcome to another Motors.co.uk new car video review. Now today we're going to be looking at the imposing Audi SQ8. But before we do, remember to like this video, subscribe to the Motors.co.uk YouTube channel and click that bell icon so that you get a notification each and every time we upload a new video just like this one. The coupe-styled SUV segment is one which is booming. There was the BMW X6, of course, which kicked things off, and this has been followed by the Mercedes-Benz GLE Coupe and even the Porsche Cayenne Coupe. And now Audi wants to slice that action with this, the Q8. But this isn't any ordinary Q8, this is an SQ8, and it's packing some real performance. It's hard to miss the SQ8, that's for sure. The front grille is almost postcode large, while the four exhaust pipes at the rear give a clear indication of its performance. But we'll let you in on a little secret. Just 2 out of those 4 pipes are actually real. You've got a full-length light bar at the rear and huge alloys on all 4 corners. It's an imposing car, and that'll likely go down pretty well with buyers. The cabin of the SQ8 is beautifully finished. There are nice aluminium style inserts here, and it matches the carbon fibre that you've got just underneath it. But of course, the cabin is dominated by the amount of tech that you get. Now, in the middle, you've got a twin screen setup. Up top is for media and phone, as well as satellite navigation, and down the bottom, and that's the controls for the heating and ventilation, as well as the seat heating. Everything works just as you'd want it. The haptic feedback that you get from these screens means that though it's just glass, you can feel a reaction to every time you press something, and everything reacts perfectly well. And down the bottom, everything just does the same thing. It's haptic feedback again, so you get a small response whenever you click something, and it's very intuitive to use. In front of you, you have Audi's well-known virtual cockpit, and that gives you a main screen in front of you which can be tailored to whatever you want. So you can have a large satellite navigation screen and smaller dials, or large uncomplicated dials for those who just prefer to know what the car is doing. All in, it's a very well executed design, and one that feels befitting of the car's price tag, which we will admit is over £100,000. As you'd expect from a car of this size, there's loads of boot space. You've got 605 litres as standard, and this can be increased up to 1,755 litres with those rear seats folded flat. It's plenty of space for most occasions, and it's more than you'll find in the BMW X6. When you're just pootling around, the SQ8 feels pretty much like any other large Audi SUV. The engine is quite muted, the steering is nice and light, and the forward visibility that you have gives you a really commanding view of the road ahead. Though that said, the sloping roof does mean that you've got quite a small aperture to look out of the back. However, when you want to kick things up a notch, there's so much torque on offer that you can transform this car into one that will really give most hot hatches a run for their money. It's properly quick, and that means that even away from the line, this car feels otherworldly fast. This car's engine is nearly as imposing as its styling. It's a 4-litre diesel V8 with 2 turbochargers and a single electric supercharger. You get 429 bhp, an incredible 900 Nm of torque. It means this Leviathan can go from 0 to 60 miles an hour in just 4.6 seconds and onwards to a top speed of 155 miles an hour. It's incredible performance, and the car sounds good too. It's like a powerboat for the road. Now, there are plenty of driver modes to choose from, ranging from auto and comfort up to dynamic, which gives you more weight to the steering and firms up the suspension too. Now, we would say that in this mode, the ride becomes a little bit too jostly for UK roads. So we'd always put the suspension into a softer setting, which just gives you a bit more pliancy for the roads that we're traveling on, like today. Another thing that isn't ideal is that the weight added to the steering in dynamic modes makes the car feel a little cumbersome. So again, automatically, the car is set up in the best mode in our mind. And when you're traveling at speed, the refinement is top notch. There's not too much intrusion from the tyres into the cabin, and this makes it very luxurious when you're driving even at speed and on the motorway. The automatic gearbox in this car is nice and smooth when you've got it in full auto mode, but if you do want to take control via the steering wheel mounted paddles, then it's quick to shift when you want it. However, for most of the time, we just leave it in full auto mode. You of course can't get away from the fact that this is a big car, so it does take some effort to make sure that you're placing it correctly on the road. It feels to take up the entire lane wherever you are, even on the motorway. But that's just part and parcel of having a large SUV to drive around, and it's something that I'm sure most drivers will be well accustomed to by the time that they've driven the car for a few miles. The SQ8 does come with plenty of off-road tech too, with hill descent control and low range both fitted, though we'll imagine that most of these cars won't ever see a muddy track, let alone a steep incline. Though, as we've mentioned, the Audi SQ8 sits within a very competitive market, it should be able to keep its head held high. It's got that incredible performance for when you want to go quickly, but this is contrasted by the ability to settle down when you don't. It combines with an overall feel of luxury and of high-end finish that you expect from a car with both this badge and this price tag. And though it's a car that sits within a very congested segment, it's still one which does well to stand out.